Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem, amma ba'd. I'm sure by now we reached the conclusion that in this journey of Jordan and Palestine, there's no quiet days. Each day is busy, there's a lot to see, a lot to do. So inshallah on this day we'll see the other three Masajid, as well there are other places to visit inside Masjidul Aqsa as well. The first Masjid inshallah which we'll be talking about is known as Masjid-e-Buraq. Masjid-e-Buraq is that Masjid which is located on the western wall. We call it the western wall, sometimes known as the Wailing Wall, sometimes known as the Buraq Wall. It is mentioned that this is the place that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he had come, this is the place where he had tied the Buraq. One hadith, it is mentioned in Muslim Sharif, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, I was given the Buraq. And then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam explains the animal, hiya dabbatun abyad tawil, that it is an animal which was tall and white in color. فوق الحمار ودون البغل, taller than a donkey but shorter than a mule. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam then says, يَضَعُ حَافِرَهُ عِنْدَ مُنْتَهَى تَرَفِهِ أو كما قال. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that its speed was such that when it was traveling, it would place its hoof, its next step, as far as the eye could see. So this was how fast it used to travel. This was the animal that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had traveled upon when he had went from Masjid Haram and he came to Masjid Aqsa. Then the question comes about that this ring which we will find in Masjid Buraq, is this the ring that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had used to tie the Buraq when he had come to Masjid Aqsa? Now in this riwayat of Muslim Sharif, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, فَرَبَطْتُهُ بِالْحَلَقَةِ الَّتِي يَرْبِطُ بِهَا الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, I tied the Buraq on that ring where other Ambiyaa used to also tie the animal, they used to also tie the Buraq. Now this is what is mentioned in this riwayat. However, there is another riwayat where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that Jibreel alayhi salam had made a hole in the sakhra which is contained in the dome of the rock. He made a hole and the Buraq was tied in on the sakhra. So ulama, when they reconcile between these two ahadith, they say that initially Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he had come, he had tied the Buraq on the same ring where the other Ambiyaa also tied their animals. However, Jibreel alayhi salam, showing Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was not going to be treated like other people. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was going to be given a special status and significance. He untied the animal and he went and he then tied it at the sakhra, showing that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's status is higher, he has a loftier position. So this ring which is contained in Masjid al-Buraq, it is mentioned that this is the ring where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam tied the Buraq. But like all other places, this we will say that we are not sure. Allahu A'lam, Allah Ta'ala knows best. But this is what is mentioned, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had come and tied the animal here. But like the other places, we cannot say for certain this is definitely the place. So this is the first masjid, Masjid-e-Buraq. The second masjid, and this is the masjid which everyone generally knows about, everyone generally sees on the pictures. This is known as Masjid-ul-Sakhra, which is also known as the Dome of the Rock, which is that dome which is built on top of the rock. According to the Jews, it is known as the Temple Mount. Now, according to them, what we know as the Sakhra, they also regard it as being something of significance. They call it the foundation stone. So this Temple Mount, just like how it would have significance for us, it has significance for them also. And according to the Jews, this is also regarded as their Qibla. The beauty and magnificence of the Dome of the Rock is something everyone knows about. In fact, it is mentioned that this is one of the most easily recognizable structures in the world. That when a person sees this, he will know that we are talking about Masjid Aqsa, we are talking about the land of Jerusalem. Just to quickly mention with regards to the construction, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and his son Walid, they were the ones responsible for building the Dome of the Rock between the years 65 AH and 72 AH. There were two architects also that were involved in this construction, Raja bin Haywa and Yazid ibn Salam. They were residents of Palestine. They were the ones who helped and assisted in the building of Dome of the Rock. Obviously the original construction and what the building that we will see today, it's not the same. But because during the time of the different khilafas that came, the different people that came, they made different constructions, or they beautified it, they adorned it. and now we have it in the present condition that it is today. With regards to the rock itself, which is found inside the dome of the rock. Now what is the significance of it? In one hadith, which is mentioned in Ibn Majah Sharif, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentions, Al-ajwa was-sakhra min al-jannah. Ajwa dates, and sakhra, the sakhra is from Jannat, from paradise. Some muhaddithin explain that this sakhra which is mentioned in this hadith of Ibn Majah refers to the sakhra which is found in Baytul Muqaddas. So this also is something which we will show respect to, we will show honor to it, that perhaps this rock is what is mentioned in this hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Just for us to understand also, as was mentioned before the time of Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu, this place was controlled by the Romans. And the Romans at that time did not show any respect to the place. In fact, they converted the entire thing into a dump site. This entire place. Now because the Temple Mount was the Qibla of the Jews. Now because of that, they decided to show disrespect to it, and they turned the entire thing into a dump site. Now when the news of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam coming, and the letter of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam when it reached Hiraqal, and he had seen now that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is now the Nabi of Allah, he sends a message to the people of Palestine. He sends a message to the Christians that are there, that clean up this place. Clean up this place, because if you are not going to do so, it is possible that you are going to be destroyed, just as how the Bani Israel were destroyed when they killed the Ambiyaa alaihumus. Meaning because of you showing disrespect to something which is supposed to be respected, something which is regarded as part and parcel of deen. By you showing disrespect to this, it is possible that you are going to be destroyed because of it. And it so happened that after some time, Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu was the one who was responsible for once again bringing Masjidul Aqsa into the hands of the Muslims. Now if a person goes inside the dome of the rock, under the rock, there is a staircase going down, and this is known as a cave below the rock. If a person goes there, then generally you will see different places where people will be performing Salah. However, there is no authentic narration explaining any specific benefit for a person performing Salah in these places. When Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu had conquered Palestine, then amongst the people that were there was Ka'b Ahbar rahimahullah, who was previously a Jew. He was a rabbi. So Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu ta'ala anhu asked him, where should I perform my Salah? So Hazrat Ka'b Ahbar rahimahullah explains to him that perform Salah behind the sakhra. Perform Salah behind the rock. So you will be performing Salah in such a way that the sakhra will be before you, and you will still be facing the Qibla. Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala was not happy with this. He says, ضَاحِيتَ الْيَهُودَ, that you are now resembling the Jews. You are resembling the Jews. This is their Qibla, it is not our Qibla. So he says, لَا أُصَلِّي حَيْثُ أُصَلَّى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمْ, I will perform my Salah where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam performed his Salah. فَتَقَدَّمَ, he then went forward and he performed Salah in the front. He performed Salah in the front, he did not perform Salah at this place. This is important to know also, because when a person goes by the dome of the rock, now there are numerous domed structures around the dome of the rock. One such structure is called Qubbatul Nabi. It's called Qubbatul Nabi, the Qubba, what they are saying, of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there is even like a niche there. Now this, according to what they say, is the place where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam led the Ambiyaa in Salah. And this is what is mentioned. However, this does not seem to be authentic. It seems to be that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he led the Salah, it was in the front, in the main part of the masjid. Nevertheless, a person will see all these structures, and these are things which will be pointed out to him. Now this was with regards to the second masjid, the masjid which is contained in the dome of the rock. The third masjid is known as the Marwani Masjid. Just for us to get the picture of where it is, what we can see like an iron structure on top, there is a staircase going down. This is the place which is known as the Marwani Masjid. This is the entrance of the Marwani Masjid. The Marwani Masjid, according to the historians, they say that this masjid was actually built before the Qibli Masjid. So it is something which was from quite some time ago. However, only in the year 1996, just recently in the year 1996, it was recently restored. Hence we are now able to go and perform Salah there as well. In fact, it is mentioned that this is the largest Salah area which is contained within Masjidul Aqsa. It can hold up to 6,000 musallis at a time. Now at the time when the Crusaders had taken over, At the time when the Crusaders were the ones who were in charge of this land, this place was known as Solomon's Stables. Solomon's Stables, this has nothing to do with Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salam. However, it was known as Solomon's Stables because they had turned this place into a stable, where they used to come with their horses. In fact, if a person goes, there will be certain places which will be shown that there were rings. On the pillars, there were certain rings that were there, and those rings were used by the Crusaders to tie their horses. That is why it is known as Solomon's Stables. If a person goes into Marwani Masjid, then there is a certain place, if a person goes up a flight of stairs, the locals will tell you this is known as the Mihrab of Maryam alayha salam. Now if a person looks into the kitabs and he looks into the literature, however this is not known as Mihrab of Maryam alayha salam, it is known as the cradle of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. However, both of them, now as I had mentioned, this is located in the Marwani Masjid, just up a flight of stairs. However, both of these views, the view of it being the Mihrab of Maryam alayhi salam, as well as being the cradle of Isa alayhi salam, does not seem to be authentic. It doesn't seem to be authentic. In fact, it is mentioned that according to the Christian belief, there is no place of significance for them which is contained inside Masjidul Aqsa. However, one thing is for certain, that within the Aqsa compound, within Masjidul Aqsa, there is definitely a place that is known as the Mihrab of Maryam alayhi salam. Mention of this is made in the Quraan Majeed, where Allah Ta'ala makes mention, وَكَفَّلَهَا زَكَرِيَّا, that Hazrat Zakaria alayhi salam was the one who used to take care of her, and he was the one who was looking after her. كُلَّمَا دَخَلَ عَلَيْهَا زَكَرِيَّا الْمِحْرَابِ وَجَدَ عِنْدَهَا رِزْقًا. Whenever Hazrat Zakaria alayhi salam used to enter her mihrab, whenever he used to enter upon her, he found sustenance by her. Not only did he find sustenance, he found those fruit which were out of season. So if a fruit was supposed to be found in summer, he was finding it in winter, and vice versa. So this was something which shocked him. He was amazed by this. قَالَ يَا مَرْيَمْ أَنَّا لَكِ هَذَا. He asked, said, "Oh Maryam alayhi salam, how is this happening? How are you obtaining this fruit?" قَالَتْ هُوَ مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. That this has come from the side of Allah Ta'ala. This is sustenance from the side of Allah. Something for us to ponder over, something for us to reflect over as well. That in the Quraan Majeed, Allah Ta'ala makes specific mention of the benefits of a person obtaining the quality of taqwa. The quality of taqwa, of fearing Allah, of putting Allah Ta'ala before us at all times. One verse Allah Ta'ala says, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. The one who has the fear of Allah, Allah Ta'ala will make a way out for him. In whatever difficulty he is, Allah Ta'ala will make a way out. وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ. Allah Ta'ala will grant him sustenance from places which he did not even realize. He could not even fathom it. But sustenance will come to him in this way. So in this way, by a person obtaining and having that quality of taqwa, he will be able to enjoy from the bounties of Allah Ta'ala. These are all found in these masajid. The first masjid that we had discussed was Masjid Buraq. The second one was the masjid which is contained by the Sakhra. And the third is known as Masjid Marwani. Now the other places of significance which are found within the Aqsa compound, one is with regards to Imam Ghazali rahimahullah. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah was not born here, nor did he pass away here. So the question comes, what is the significance of mentioning him here? So it is mentioned that there is a raised platform, which we can see here on the top. There is a raised platform which is attributed to him, that he had spent some time here. And there is also a house, which they will say that this is where Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, when he had come to Palestine, when he had come to Jerusalem, this is where he had spent some time. Now Imam Ghazali rahimahullah, he was born in a place known as Tus, in Tabaran, in the year 450 after Hijri. He had excelled so much when it came to education, when it came to knowledge, that when he was just 34 years of age, in Baghdad, he became the ustad, or the head ustad of the Nizamiya Madrasa. And this was a place, this was something which was looked up to. Everyone wanted this position. And he had obtained it just at the age of 34 years. He had reached such a high status. He was a person who was well honored, a person who was respected, not only by the people, but by the kings, by the royals as well. So he had a very good and a very easy life. He had a life that everyone else adored. However, at this time, he was not happy. He did not find that inner peace. So it is mentioned, he then went into solitude. He went into solitude, he left that beautiful position he had in Baghdad. He left it all, he went into solitude. He spent approximately 10 to 11 years in solitude. He went to Damascus, he spent some time in the Masjid in Damascus, he spent some time in the minaret of the Masjid in Damascus, and he also spent some time in Jerusalem as well. It is mentioned he used to even go into solitude near the Sakhra in the Dome of the Rock. He used to go and spend some time there as well. And he even went and he visited the qabr of Hazrat Ibrahim alayhi salam. And like this, he spent his time in solitude for 10 to 11 years. And it is mentioned that the amount of inner beauty, the spiritual beauty that he obtained at this time, he felt that he could enjoy it for the rest of his life. He did not want to go back to that life. However, when he had seen the condition of the people, when he had seen that the condition of the people, that the Muslims do not have Islam in them anymore, he realized that there was a need for me to go back. There was a need for me to go back in order to correct and reform the lives of the people. So he goes back and he begins to teach again in the same Nizamiya madrasa. But he himself says, when I was teaching then, and I'm teaching now, it's a world of difference. In the beginning it was about name and fame, it was about popularity, it is about getting the people to look up to me. But now it is for the sake of Allah. Now it is for the sake of Allah and about spreading the deen of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it is mentioned now when he came back, after spending the 10 to 11 years, when he comes back now to Baghdad, it is here now that he writes his kitab. The famous kitab, Ihya'u Ulumuddin. This is from his famous works that he had compiled. And one of the reasons why he had compiled this is that he had looked at the different evils and the different faults that were contained within the different groups of people, whether it is in the royal families, whether it was in the normal people, whether it was in the working class people, whatever faults they had. Via his kitabs, he tried to correct it. He tried to reform it. And this is one of the reasons why this kitab, Ihya Ulumuddin, is so widely accepted and so widely used, that this kitab, number one, it was written with so much of ikhlas. But together with that, it contained so much of ulum and so much of guidance, that it was a means of guidance for the people at that time. Imam Ghazal rahimahullah passed away at the age of 55 years. And as I had mentioned, he was not buried here in Jerusalem. Rather, he was buried there also in the land of Tus in Tabaran, at the year 505 years after Hijri. Now the place which we were speaking about with regards to Imam Ghazali, it is near Babu Rahma, where that platform is contained. That platform is there, as well as the house which is attributed to him. It is on this side near Babu Rahma. Another place which we are quite surprised to find in the Aqsa compound is the qabr of Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar rahimahullah. As is mentioned on the top, that this is the resting place of Maulana Muhammad Ali Johar al-Hindi from India. So something which is shocking, how did a person from India land up over here? How did he find himself here? Nevertheless, this qabr is found on the western wall. If a person comes out from the Qibli Masjid, then on the left hand side, this is where the qabr is found. On the western wall, his qabr is not alone. He is not the only person who's buried there. There are many other qabrs as well. From among those qabrs, there is a qabr also of one of the kings of Jordan, one of the previous kings. They are also buried in this place. Now just for us to understand who he was very quickly, he was a person he was in India at the time of the British oppression. So like other ulama also, he fought for the independence of India from British rule. This is on the one hand. But together with that, something which was also amazing about his life, that he lived through World War I. And now after World War I, there was a change. The Khilafat had fallen. Now Turkey also was now under new rulership. So there were two things which were very close to his heart. Two things which he fought very hard for. Obviously one was for the independence of India. But together with that, he fought hard for Turkey itself. For Turkey itself, he wanted Turkey to remain under the Khilafat. He did not want it to change hands and to go into their hands and become now a secular state. And the second thing, what was close to his heart, was Palestine. That after World War I and now the changing of the condition in Palestine and the British taking over, that the land of Palestine was very close to his heart. He had a lot of concern for it. A lot of his writings, a lot of his articles were based on this, that he wanted the condition of the Turkish as well as the Palestinians and the Middle East. He wanted the condition of the Muslims to be safe. He did not want the Muslims to go through difficulty and hardship. In fact, it is mentioned in the year 1919. He went to London itself. He went to England in order to speak to the British Empire, in order for them to keep the Khilafat movement in place. However, this was a failed attempt. Why? Because the British themselves, they did not want it. So they did not listen to him. It was a failed attempt. Nevertheless, he is buried here in the Aqsa compound as per his wish and as per the wish of his family as well. According to the reports, he did not pass away here. He passed away in London, but he was buried here according to his wish in the Aqsa compound. Another place which we will find in the Aqsa compound, not far from the Qibli Masjid, is known as the Museum of Masjidul Aqsa. This is a place which is located on the front western corner. So if a person comes out again, he turns left, the museum is here on the left hand side. But together with the museum being there, on this wall, what we can say on the Qibla wall, on this side there is also a maktaba, there is a library which also contains some beautiful kitabs also, which a person, inshallah, he should also go and try and visit. Within the museum, there are a lot of manuscripts found. In fact, it is mentioned there are over 750 manuscripts of the Quraan Majeed, and some of them date back all the way to the 2nd century of Islam. A lot of manuscripts can be found, as well as other relics and artifacts. There are some remains of the original minaret of Nuruddin Zangi. Together with that, there are other remains of the original masjid of Masjidul Aqsa, maybe before some renovations could take place. And this is just a few examples. There are many other artifacts, many other monuments that a person can see within the museum. So this is definitely a place which a person should try and visit in order for him to get some idea of the history of Masjidul Aqsa. Now this was just a few examples of the places that a person can see within the Aqsa compound. There are many other places, and if a person, inshallah, wants more information with regards to it, there is a beautiful copy, what we can say like a leaflet, which is found, it's found on this website. Inshallah, we should try and take it down, get ourselves a copy of this leaflet before we go to Masjid Aqsa. It's really something which is handy, something which is beneficial, and inshallah it is something which will benefit us.